Hi, it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. This week I'm joining the Punched Out Thursday to Die For collaboration. We share ideas every Thursday on what to do with your punches and your dies. You will find links to all the other participants below, including our newest participant, Laura. She's known as City Scrapper on YouTube. She's super talented, as are the other ladies. So be sure to welcome Laura and check out all the channels for a bunch of tool inspiration. So here's the layout I'm going to be creating today, and it's a quick and easy single page layout. However, I am a double page scrapbooker, so if you would like to see how I stretch this one into a 5 photo double page spread, stick around until the end of this video. I'm going to pop back on with the completed second page, and I'm going to explain how it quickly came together. So here's what I'm going to be using. I have paper from Carta Welcome Autumn collection, and you're about to see the tools I'm going to be using. And this week I have a lot of basic shapes. I have squares, rectangles, hearts. I also have some new leaf dies from the October 2021 Hip Kit Club release. So I'll talk more about these tools throughout the process. I will suggest substitutes when possible, and I will list everything I'm using in the description box below. So here's what's on my desk, and the only preparation I did was mat that 5x5 photo. That is a cat head made from hot peppers. Here's the paper that I will be using. I do have a lot of scraps from this collection. I've been using it quite a bit actually lately. On my desk, I also have a basket of tools. Like I mentioned, I will talk more about them when I actually use them. And I have been having some mojo issues lately, so today what I'm using as a jumping off point is a page that I found in Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine from the fall 2020 edition, and it's a page by Nicole Noah Sad, and I may be mispronouncing her name, and sorry if I am. That border on the left is what inspires me with all of those squares. So basically what I'm doing right now is cutting up some papers to create my foundation page, and it's going to be pretty easy. And this orange piece here, it's actually going to be a photo mat, and I'll put measurements for everything I'm doing on the screen, but I'll put that on a little bit later on when I actually place them on the page. Right now, what I'm doing is adding a very narrow border to the far left of the page. So what I did was I cut myself a strip of paper. It probably measures about 1 inch wide, but the visible part is about 1/2 inch. The visible part is going to be what's written on the screen. But what I did was I adhered it behind the page, so it made my page about 12.5 inches long, and then I trimmed the entire page down once again to 12 inches. Now what you see me doing is placing that large border with the checkered paper and the orange over there on the right, and you can kind of see how I plan to place my photo on the page. But right now, what I want to do is cut out a bunch of squares. Like I said, that page that I showed you in the magazine, that was my jumping off point. So I have a bunch of scraps of paper from this collection, and it's a type of page that's actually perfect for using scraps of paper. So I'm going to be doing it in 4 different prints, and I'm using a die set called Stitched Shapes from Stampin' Up. And basically it's squares in this case with a little stitched embossed edging around the edge. So I did that in 4 different prints of paper, and I also cut out the squares in some white cardstock. So I'm backing each one of these squares in 1 piece of cardstock, just to make them a little bit more substantial, because this is going to be a big embellishment piece on my page basically, and I just wanted them to look a little bit thicker, a little bit more substantial. So once they're all backed, what I'm going to do is just kind of play around with a pattern to find something that I like on the page. So you're going to see I'm placing that large border there over on the right, and I'm going to play around with these different pattern papers over on the left. So once I find something that I like, then what I'll do is simply adhere all of this to the page and continue with my embellishing. But like I mentioned earlier, those squares, in my opinion anyway, already have a big impact on the page. So their need for a lot of embellishing really decreases with that, in my opinion, especially with all of those printed papers there. So I'm adhering the border to the page, and then I'm going to come on and adhere those squares. And the most noteworthy thing about adhering these squares is that I start at the top and I measure the distance from the top to the top of the square. And the same thing on the left-hand side. I do the very same thing at the bottom. So I want it to be equal distance from the bottom of the page to the square, the same as at the top. The same thing from the left-hand side. And once those two spots, two squares are established, then what I did is I used my T-square as a guide. I adhered the square right in the middle, and then I positioned the other two in between. Once that's done, I basically use my T-square and the row of squares that is already adhered as a guide to adhere the second row of squares. So the most important thing there was to start at the top and at the bottom on the left in my case, and then continue forward. Now what you see me doing is getting out my Big Shot again, and I'm getting out these leaf dies from the Hip Kit Club. Now that particular collection, which is a limited time release, I think, came with 5 different dies, and I'm going to be using 3 of them here today. So I'm cutting 2 of them out in green and orange. One of them is like a sprig there. It cut out very well. This green one is like a lacy leaf. I'm having a little bit of trouble getting it out of the die, but not too bad. It did cut well. And this oak leaf is my absolute favorite. It has like little embossed dots on it. Super, super cute. You'll see it better in the still shots at the very end of this video. So I continued off camera and cut out a bunch more leaves, but I do still have my Big Shot out. So I'm cutting out in a stitched rectangle die. This one here is from Stampin' Up. And I'm cutting out a block. That's in graph paper. That's going to serve as my journaling box. And I'm also going to cut out a few heart as well. This is from another die set from Stampin' Up. It's called Sweet and Sassy. It's got a bunch of different hearts there. So I'm cutting out a few hearts in green and orange, and you're going to see I end up coming in later on and cutting them out in brown as well. But at this point, I just want some embellishing to play with. So once I have all of that down, now I'm going to start adhering everything on the page. First, I'm having a check-in with that page, and basically I was inspired by the border, but the rest of it I'm kind of going on my own here. So I'm adhering that photo to that orange block, and my plan is to place that journaling box underneath. I do have a little bit of grief at this point, to be perfectly honest, and it's because of the photo, because the lines in the table on the photo are crooked, and it's making, to my eyes anyway, everything look crooked on the page. So at one point I just stop the camera and I make sure everything is straight. And it is straight. It's like I said, it's the photo, the lines in the photo that are kind of warping my perception at this point. So I have all of that adhered. I do know that the journaling spot is a little bit more towards the left than the right, but on the left-hand side, I do plan on covering up that area with embellishing, so I'm not too worried about it. You can see I have that green heart in that solid orange square over on the left side of the photo. And now what I'm doing is simply creating a bouquet with the leaves that I cut out at the bottom of the photo in the corner of the journaling box, and I'm doing one in the opposite corner above the photo there where you see me working right now. So I'm just playing around with that a bit, and then I do come in and adhere it, but soon I'm going to start encountering problems. Right now I'm just adhering all the pieces. You saw there for the heart, I did actually back the heart in 2 layers of cardstock just to turn that heart into almost like a chipboard piece. It's a little bit thicker. The adhesive I'm using for the finer leaves is that yellow one there. It's called Sticky Specs by Ecstasy Crafts. It's basically like adhesive on that yellow paper, and then there's like a wax paper on top of it. And basically you put the detailed piece on top of the yellow paper and it picks up the adhesive. For the oak leaves, I just used my regular adhesive, and later on you're going to see I pop up those oak leaves, the tips of them anyway, with a little bit of foam adhesive. So it's here that I'm starting to not like my page. And again, I spoke last week in my video about having mojo issues, and when I'm like this, I tend to not like what I'm creating. So anyway, what I end up doing here is I feel at this point that there isn't enough contrast underneath the photo and the journaling box, because the photo has a white journaling spot underneath it. So what I end up doing here is cutting myself a strip of this striped paper, and I'm going to put like a narrow shelf underneath the photo just to add a bit of contrast between the journaling box and the white mat of the photo. And I am happy with that, although I'm still not satisfied. There is also something else that this page is missing, and that is a title. And I want to keep it simple, and I have that sticker sheet from this collection, and I'm thinking of using one of the small words. But this is a trick I use if I want to use a small word from a sticker sheet as a title. Basically, I'm going to beef up that small word with die cuts, and that's what you see me doing right now. I'm cutting out what almost looks like a stitched label. It's from a die set from Stampin' Up called Stitched So Sweetly. That could be replaced with any label or a circle, just something big. And what I plan to do is put the word sticker on top of it. So I'm looking through the stickers trying to find something. There are a bunch of fall expressions there, but I do want to place something between the label and the word sticker, because I find that the discrepancy in size is just too much. So I am going to put a heart underneath there, but I'm playing around with the words and I just can't decide at this point. I did not like that photo still. So what I did off camera was I created myself yet again another photo mat. You can see it's very narrow under there, but it's brown, and I'm happier with that. Number one, it makes the orange a little bit less obvious, which was starting to bother me. It also kind of just grounds the photo a little bit more, I find. And when I cut out that brown mat, I also cut out a few brown hearts. So you can see I've replaced the two areas with hearts with brown, and I'm much happier. I find that the brown really does help. Still, I have no idea what I want to use for a title. So I keep looking at this sticker sheet, and finally I come up with this one. I don't find it looks bad at all. It just says, I love fall most. So I decide that's what I'm going to go for. And I end up, as you can see, I'm adhering that brown heart on top of that label. It makes it definitely stand out more. And now I'm backing that word sticker with a piece of cardstock because I want to make it a little bit more substantial. And I'm adding some foam adhesive underneath it so that it pops up. So suddenly that word sticker, which was kind of small and boring, is all beefed up, and it is serving as a title. But because I added those layers underneath it, it's kind of title worthy, I will call it. Anyway, that's just a trick you can use with your tools if you want to create a title with something small. So there is my finished page. Now I'm about to come on and show you how I stretched it into a 5-photo double page spread. So this one, I kept it super simple. Basically, I created a large border over on the left-hand side of the second page. I also created a large title there that says Harvest. Those were with dies called large letter dies from Stampin' Up. I created a 4-photo grid there over on the left. I also repeated that narrow green border over on the far right and created one more embellishment cluster to create a visual triangle. I'm showing you right now some self-adhesive brads. This is from the Welcome Autumn collection, and this is something else I often do when I create my second page. I'll come in at the very end and I'll add a bit of repetition to each one of the embellishment clusters. And that's what I'm doing right now, tucking in a self-adhesive brad into each one of these clusters. Also, I'm almost through with this collection, so I want to kind of use up this stuff as well. They are super cute, and I still have quite a few of them left. So that is what I ended up creating with my tools and with this collection here today. Honestly, again, I'm still working through my mojo issues, and one thing is certain, I've been working a lot with this collection, so it's definitely time for me to use something else. Now, hopefully we'll come up with another video in a few days, but it will not be with this collection. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, Scrapbooking Quebec, I would be absolutely thrilled if you did. And if you are a subscriber, thank you very much. Have a fantastic day. Don't forget to check out all the other participants. Their links are in the description box below. And I will see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.